His appearance and aura quickly changed, and in the end, he became a stranger. With a sway of his body, he rushed forward. "Stop, who are you?" Someone shouted coldly from above the city of 10,000 sabers. The surrounding saber light continued to spread, and the cold killing intent made people tremble. The demon emperor stopped, raised his head, and said, "It's me, Black Wolf Emperor. Aren't you already dead?" The people of the city of 10,000 blades were astonished. The Black Wolf Emperor said, "No, I used the substitution technique to escape. I discovered Lin Xian's secret, so I came here to discuss it with the Saber Immortal. Lord Black Wolf Emperor, this is a time of crisis. Please allow us to inspect you." "No problem." The Demon Emperor nodded. He had obtained the corpse of the Black Wolf Emperor when he went to the Abyss Ancient City. Back then, Zhang Xian had already obtained a portion of the Black Wolf Emperor's bloodline. If he were to utilize it now, he would be able to pass it off as the real deal. Sure enough, the Demon Emperor's divine ability had deceived the powerhouses of the city of 10,000 sabers. They opened a passage. "Lord Black Wolf Emperor, please come in." The Demon Emperor nodded and walked in. After entering, he asked the guards, "Is Lord Saber Immortal back?" "No, Lord Saber Immortal is still fighting, but victory is definitely ours." The group chatted as they walked, and the Demon Emperor asked about the situation. When they came to a place where no one was around, he waved his hand, and the surrounding demonic aura instantly erupted. It formed a demonic barrier, enveloping the 3 guards around him. The 3 guards' expressions changed, and they roared, "Who are you? How dare you attack us?" "You're not the Black Wolf Emperor." "Yes, I'm not." The Demon Emperor returned to his true form, and his black hair kept fluttering. He said, "Do you know who I am? Are you from the realm of the gods?" They had not seen the Demon Emperor before, because the Demon Emperor did not fight in the previous battle, break out of the encirclement, and gather the powerhouses in the city to kill him. The 3 guards roared, and the power in their bodies completely erupted. They wanted to tear the cage apart. However, the Demon Emperor shook his head. "Don't waste your energy. You can't escape." His voice was flat. The next moment, he stretched out his palm. Supernatural power, demon bondage. Suddenly, the pressure of the cage doubled, and the 3 guards were firmly suppressed. Then, the Demon Emperor began to collect their souls. Not long after, he withdrew his palm, waved his embroidered robe, and directly killed the 3. Array Hall? The Demon Emperor's eyes flickered. Then his figure transformed into the appearance of one of the guards, and he walked out. According to the Soul Collection just now, there were many powerful arrays in the Scimitar Ancient City. Endless black fragments drifted between heaven and earth like black wings. "It's over." Humph, with just him? How dare he come here and behave atrociously? Scorching Sun Emperor also gritted his teeth. He's finally dead. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he couldn't laugh anymore because he found that the fragments in the sky began to condense again. Then, the Demon Emperor's figure appeared in front of everyone again. He wasn't dead. He was still alive. How was that possible? His aura didn't weaken at all. Countless people were in despair. Even Scorching Sun Emperor and the others gasped. How could there be such a powerful person in the world? The Demon Emperor laughed out loud. "I'm a demon. I'm immortal." He looked up to the sky and roared, "Divine power, shadow of 10,000 demons." Countless demonic sounds rushed out of his body and swept in all directions. Immediately, people below the great emperor level died in large numbers. "Quickly, retreat into the array." Scorching Sun Dolly roared crazily, "Emperor-level figures, charge with me. Everyone else, retreat. Activate the array and kill him." A great battle broke out, and it was very terrifying. The demon emperor was even more powerful. He had countless divine powers and fought against a group of heroes alone. The entire city of 1,000 Blades was wailing and howling because of him. At this moment, everyone in the heavenly land realized what was going on. There was a battle in the city of 1,000 Blades, and blood soared into the sky. No way! Many strong masters were dying in the city of 1,000 Blades. Someone was attacking the city of 1,000 Blades. Countless exclamations sounded. The people in Upper Qingcheng naturally learned about it. They were all stunned. Was there anyone else attacking besides them? Who was it? The Supreme Hall or the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty? However, they did not see anyone from those two powers at all. Saber Immortal, who was fighting at the front, naturally felt something strange. His expression changed. Not good. The city of 1,000 Blades that he was in charge of was under attack. He subconsciously wanted to go back. However, a figure stopped him. The battle between you and me is not over yet. This was something that had already been discussed beforehand. The flame immortal went back. The Earth Emperor Seal came. The Heavenly Cycle Master also came. He once again created a spatial passageway. When the two of them looked at the Song Imperial City, they frowned. It would take some time to tidy up the Earth vein. Fortunately, you have the Devouring Sword. Besides, we have a Heavenly Master here. We can repair it. Otherwise, the city would be in danger. When the news came back, the people of the God Realm exclaimed, "Great! We took down another city." They had gained an absolute advantage. As expected, Xian Yin and Xian Ming looked pale. The people of the Nirvana Realm were in despair. Even the Song Imperial City was lost. They all wanted to retreat. The Death God retreated. Xian Yin and Xian Ming also wanted to retreat. The Sword Immortal also wanted to leave. However, Lin Zhan wouldn't let him leave. This time, he had to kill him. In the distance, the battle was still going on. Lin Zhan's fighting spirit hadn't been extinguished. The Wine Sword Immortal stood in the ancient city and looked up. He said, "It seems that I have to help him." "Daoist friend, can we go together?" The Flame Immortal didn't answer. He looked at the Emperor Seal. The Emperor Seal said, "We can work together. However, I have a small request. When we go to the Sky Burial Valley in the future, I hope you and Lin Gongzi can go together and help us." "No problem." Lord Alcohol nodded. He knew that the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty wanted to borrow the power of the Great Dragon Sword and the Devouring Sword. After all, the Sky Burial Valley was very strange. "Okay, Flame Immortal, go and help the God Realm." The Flame Immortal took the chasing sun bow again. He and the Wine Sword Immortal flew into the sky. They didn't have to worry about the Song Imperial City. With the Emperor Seal here, no one could attack it. The appearance of Lord Alcohol and the Flame Immortal made the Sword Immortal's face turn ugly. The Xian Yin and Xian Ming also roared, "Let's go! If we don't go now, it will be too late." The Sword Immortal's soul and the Sword Arc combined and turned into a shocking rainbow that shot into the distance. However, he was stopped by a vortex. Immediately after, a golden light appeared and turned into a fire dragon that tore the Sword Immortal's soul apart. The Sword Immortal was pierced by an arrow. He screamed, "Ancient God artifact!" He was stunned. Chapter 63-58. 3 days later, the black-robed man walked out from the depths of the Sword God Palace. This person was Xian Ming. The corner of his mouth raised into a smile. It was done. Next, he would go to find the Sword Emperor. At this moment, The Sword Emperor was still cultivating. He wanted to break through and become an Earth immortal. At this moment, he suddenly felt his hair stand on end. He felt a black-robed man appear behind him. Who was it? With an angry shout, he slashed out with his sword, but his sword was easily blocked. "It's you. Greetings, Senior." He knew that the person in front of him was an Earth immortal on the same level as the ancestor. Xian Ming looked at the Sword Emperor and kept nodding. "Not bad, not bad. When I was talking to the Sword God, he kept mentioning you. He said that you are the future hope of the Sword God Palace. Now that I see you, you are indeed extraordinary. I am afraid that no one in the Sword God Palace is your match. But what a pity. The Sword Emperor was originally proud. Was the ancestor praising him like this? He felt very happy. However, he soon frowned. Why is Senior pitiful? Are you mocking me? Fairy, you misunderstood. This old man is not mocking you. It's just a pity that the great dragon sword spirit isn't in your hands. Great dragon sword soul. Hearing this, the Sword Emperor's pupils shrank. The great dragon sword, one of the 5 legendary swords. Its power is beyond imagination. However, this treasure is extremely mysterious. It is said that it has long been lost. I have naturally heard of the legend of the great dragon sword. However, this treasure has disappeared with the previous battle. It has never appeared again. You are wrong. Xian Ming shook his head slightly. Your jade, clear city is very mysterious. One city is one world. Nephew, you haven't gone out yet, right? I don't want to go out. I think it's better for you to go out and take a look. The world is very big, the universe is very vast, and there are many interesting people outside. I know one person. His name is Lin Wudi. He is a top expert of the younger generation, and is now a young great emperor. A mere great emperor dares to call himself invincible. The Sword Emperor's eyes were filled with disdain. The people outside are really trash. Don't underestimate him. He is very powerful because he controls the great dragon sword soul. His sword technique is the sharpest and most terrifying sword technique I have ever seen. What? Lin Wudi has the great dragon sword soul? Is that true? When the Sword Emperor heard this, he almost jumped up. Xian Ming said, "You can recognize the power of the dragon sword soul at a glance." Was it true? You'll know when you see it. The Sword Emperor is very excited. If it really is the great dragon sword spirit, then he must snatch it. What qualifications did a young great emperor have to obtain the great dragon sword soul? Only an invincible expert like him deserved it. However, he soon frowned. Senior, you are an Earth immortal. You should also need the power of the great dragon sword soul, right? Why did you tell me? The great dragon sword was one of the 5 swords in the world, and there was no one who did not want to obtain it. The Sword Emperor was very smart. He quickly calmed down. Because I can't get it, I want to talk about Lin Wudi. He's from the domain of the gods. The enmity between the otherworld, heavenly king, and the celestial realm has been going on for countless years. When did we start fighting? He couldn't remember it clearly anymore. We are mortal enemies. If I make a move, the land immortals of the god realm will not sit idly by. So it's an enemy. Senior, do you think I'm a fool and want to kill someone with a borrowed knife? Xian Ming stopped smiling. He said, I really want to kill someone with a borrowed knife. Moreover, I've already talked to your divine sword ancestor. He agreed. Of course, the condition is that if you kill Lin Wudi, the great dragon sword will be yours. We won't snatch it. Now I'm here to ask you, do you want to make a move? Do you dare to fight a young great emperor? Why not? I'll go kill him now. The Sword Emperor was very excited. Even the divine sword ancestor agreed. Then he had nothing to worry about. He didn't have to worry about his danger. If an earth immortal dared to attack him, the divine sword ancestor would definitely not sit idly by. Once he obtained the great dragon sword soul, he would have no problem becoming an earth immortal. Moreover, this speed would be unimaginably fast. Lin Wudi was in an ancient city in the heavenly land. Xian Ming took out a map and gave it to the Sword Emperor. "Nephew, you should make some preparations." Xian Ming left. This was not a conspiracy at all, but an open one. He didn't hide anything. Should he jump into this pit? It all depended on the Sword Emperor. However, he guessed that the Sword Emperor would definitely go. Sure enough, the Sword Emperor took a deep breath and immediately set off. "Xiao Dai, come with me." The Sword Emperor also brought a sword servant, a little maid. However, she was definitely a top swordsman. After hearing this, Xiao Dai nodded and quickly followed. A peerless sword light appeared under their feet. They cut through the sky and left the Sword God Palace. After they left, a figure appeared in the depths of the Sword God Palace. It was an old man. He bowed slightly and asked the godlike figure in front of him, "Ancestor, is it okay to let him go?" Higgin obviously had bad intentions. The terrifying figure in front of him was the divine sword. He didn't have any sword energy on him. However, no one dared to be presumptuous in front of him. The divine sword still had his hands behind his back. He looked into the distance and said with a smile, "So, what? It's just an open scheme. With the Sword Emperor's current strength, no one below the Earth immortal level was his opponent. Great Dragon Sword Soul. I'm looking forward to it. Don't worry, I already have a backup plan. I'm not afraid of the Earth Immortal's sneak attack. Ancestor is wise." The divine sword was well prepared. In a critical moment, he would immediately move. Lin Xian still didn't know that an invincible Sword Emperor was quickly heading towards him. At this moment, Lin Xian and the others were preparing to go to Yuqing City. At this time, the Crimson Dragon came back and said angrily, "Damn it, damn it. What's wrong?" The toad jumped over and asked, "That Long Xiaotian has been thinking about the Dragon Clan. He wants to take the Dragon Clan back. He wants to be the Dragon Emperor. That guy is a super great emperor. I can't beat him. I'm so angry that I can only stay in the Dragon Valley. Damn it, that Dragon Emperor. Is he coming back again?" The toad also frowned. After Lin Xian heard this, he also walked out and said, "He doesn't deserve the title of Dragon Emperor. Ruse along, take the Dragon Clan powerhouse to the heavenly land. The Dragon Clan is ours. He can forget about it. As for this Long Xiaotian, I will personally deal with him." "Great, I'll take action now." The Crimson Dragon returned to the deity ground again. In the deity ground, Long Xiaotian's brows were tightly knitted. He naturally didn't care about a Crimson Dragon, but behind the Crimson Dragon was the Divine Realm. The other party couldn't beat him, so he called for help from the Divine Realm. He couldn't do anything at that time. Damn it, it's really too damn. Back in the day, he commanded the Dragon Clan, swept across the universe, and was invincible. He was the strongest person of his era. But now, the Divine Realm and the Nirvana Realm appeared one after another. The strongest people of countless eras gathered together. Long Xiaotian was somewhat powerless. Beside him was an incomparably beautiful woman. She wore a purple dress and held a sword in her hand. The appearance of these two people attracted the attention of the crowd. Who were these two people? It was so unfamiliar. They came from afar, so perhaps they knew some information. Immediately, someone rushed up and said, "Stop! Who are you? Do you know what kind of treasure will appear here?" The one who spoke was a man whose body was covered in lightning. He was from the Thunder Clan. Up ahead, The Sword Emperor frowned. Foolish outsiders. Shao Dai, go and take care of it. When the purple-clothed woman beside him heard this, she walked out. A hint of coldness appeared in her eyes. Those who block my path will die. At this moment, an extremely terrifying sword intent burst out from her body. Suddenly, the entire void shook violently. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. This aura was too frightening. They were all stunned. This woman was incomparably beautiful, but the aura on her body was extremely terrifying. The Thunder Clan's powerhouse's expression changed. Little girl, with just you? You want to threaten me? Stupid. Kill. The purple-clothed woman shouted coldly. The long sword in her hand flew out and was caught by her jade-like hand. She slashed out with the sword. Puff. Ah. Everyone only saw a flash of sword light. Then a scream was heard. The Thunder Clan's powerhouse was cut in half, and his body fell from the sky. What a fast sword. Everyone was frightened, and their scalps went numb. They retreated one after another. They knew how terrifying this Thunder Clan's powerhouse was. He had a destructive aura. But now he was killed by a sword. This mysterious woman was too terrifying. She had a peerless sword technique. Sorry to disturb you. Forgive us, we were wrong. A voice was heard. Then, these people fled one after another. In an instant, the place became extremely quiet. The purple-clothed girl, Shao Dai, walked back to the Sword Emperor. The Sword Emperor snorted coldly. Outsiders are indeed ants. They are so weak and pitiful. He tapped his foot, and the sword chi under his feet flashed again. It turned into a flash of light and disappeared. He only had one purpose for this trip, and that was the great dragon sword soul. In the distance, the people of the Supreme Hall and the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty were also shocked. What a terrifying sword technique. I've never seen it before. Could it be that these two people are from Jade Pure City? Where are they going? They followed them to take a look. The people of the two forces followed secretly. Shao Dai said, "Young master, there are ants following us. Should we kill them?" The Sword Emperor snorted coldly. "Ignore them. Go to the city of 10,000 blades and kill that Lin Xian for me. I'll go somewhere else to take a look. Since I'm here, I'll see what's different about this universe." The Sword Emperor was very arrogant. Chapter 6360. The two attacked aggressively, their terrifying big palms blotting out the sky and covering the earth. However, Little Butterfly just smiled contemptuously. With a flash of sword light, their arms were shattered. She was so powerful. The two guards were stunned. They wanted to retreat. However, Little Butterfly snorted coldly, "Go to hell." Another sword strike. The two guards were desperate. This little girl is so strong. She is a peerless swordsman. At this critical moment, the sword energy above the city of 10,000 swords suddenly erupted, saving the two guards' lives. The two guards retreated, their arms split open, and they vomited blood. Little Butterfly was surprised. It can block my sword technique. The sword energy above the ancient city is really extraordinary. Could it be that this was the sword energy condensed by the dragon's sword soul? Little Butterfly was more and more sure. The dragon sword soul was indeed an offensive saint technique. However, in the hands of the opponent, it could only exert this much strength. What a waste! "Lin Xian, come out and die." Little Butterfly shouted angrily, and her voice instantly spread. Countless people in the city looked up. Who is it? How dare he attack Lin Gongzi so rudely? Do he want to die? In their hearts, Lin Xian was a godlike existence. The toad jumped up and said, "Who is so arrogant? I'll go and meet him." Soon, he went out and saw a little girl. He said, "I'll drown you with my spit." The toad underestimated the enemy. Although Little Butterfly was a maid. She was not an ordinary maid. She had been cultivating in the Sword God Palace since she was young, and being able to follow the Sword Emperor was enough to show how terrifying her talent was. If it weren't for her humble background, she would definitely be a top genius now. Therefore, the toad was sent flying by the sword, and there was a bloody wound on his body. Ouch, it hurts. Just you wait. The toad fled back. Boy, God damn it, there is a sword genius. And it's a little girl. Go and take a look. After the toad came back, he rushed to Lin Xian's side and said, Look, I was seriously injured by her. It hurts. Give me some heavenly spring of life. After saying that, he looked eagerly at Lin Xian. Lin Xian glanced at him and said, The heavenly spring of life is so precious. You don't need it at all. He took out a stock of ancient medicine from his storage ring and tossed it to her, saying, Take this to heal your wounds. The toad was also beaming with joy. Ha! My injury is actually not a problem anymore. However, that little girl is too despicable. She threatened to kill you. What was going on? Lin Xian frowned and asked, Do the people of Permitha have no idea of life and death? At this moment, the guards in front also arrived. They said, Lin Gongzi, this woman claims to be from the Sword God's palace and wants to steal your dragon sword soul. Sword God Palace? Never heard of it. Let's go and take a look. There were quite a few people who had designs on his great dragon sword soul. However, he had never seen anyone so brazenly do it for the first time. He wanted to see what kind of divine being this was. Let her in. There were so many people in Ancient City. Why would they be afraid of a little girl like her? Let her in. Soon, the Ancient City opened, and Little Dai walked in. She was still not afraid. This surprised everyone. A little girl actually had such great courage. When she entered the city, countless eyes looked at Little Dai. Some people exclaimed, What a beautiful woman! Others said, The sword intent on this little girl is so cold. The emperor weapon in her hand was also extremely extraordinary. Little Dai looked around and said, Which one is Lin Xian? I am. Lin Xian stood up and said loudly, I am Lin Xian. Little Dai stared at Lin Xian, and a cold sword intent appeared in her eyes, as if it was going to pierce the sky. The void around Lin Xian shook violently. Beside Lin Xian, the people from the god realm were also surprised. They thought it was a little girl who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, they didn't expect her sword intent to be so cold. Lin Xian didn't care at all. He waved his sleeve and directly dissolved the sharp aura. He said, You said you came from the Sword God's palace. Why have I never heard of it? Stupid outsider. How could you have heard of it? Our Sword God's palace is a supreme sect in Jade Clear City. Jade Clear City? Lin Xian was stunned when he heard this. The others also exclaimed. They had learned from the Wine Sword Immortal that a mysterious ancient city had appeared in the heavenly land. One city, one world. There were many ancient existences in it. They had planned to go in and explore. However, they didn't expect that the people in Jade Clear City would come out before they did. And it seemed to be a top sect in Jade Clear City. How do you know that I have the great dragon sword soul? Do you have a fragment of the great dragon sword? Lin Xian was very surprised. According to Lord Wine, Jade Clear City hadn't appeared for thousands of years. How could she know? How did we know? You don't need to know. You just need to hand over the great dragon sword soul, and I will spare your life. Ha 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 ha. As soon as she said this, the people from the deity realm all laughed. Little girl, you're too ignorant. Lin Gongzi's strength is not something you can imagine. Although you are strong, you are nothing in front of Lin Gongzi. Little girl, leave. You are no match for the young master. Voices rang out. They knew Lin Xian's strength very well. He was someone who could defeat a super great emperor. Now that he had broken through, his strength was even more unfathomable. They had never seen Lin Xian fight after breaking through. Stupid. I will show you my strength. Xiao Dai attacked. Sword light flashed as she unsheathed her long sword. This sword cut through the 9 heavens and illuminated the world. Countless people put away their smiles because that sword was simply too terrifying. What sword technique was this? Why was it so sharp? At this moment, even the great emperors felt their hair stand on end. Was she a peerless genius from the sword god's palace? Even Yi Wudao, Gu Santong, and the others wore solemn expressions. This woman was definitely a genius swordsman. In the blink of an eye, the long sword was in front of Lin Xian. In the face of such a terrifying sword, Lin Xian merely smiled. With a flick of his finger, a beam of sword chi flew out. Like a sword dragon, it appeared between heaven and earth. With a boom, the sword was slapped away by the sword dragon. Then, the sword dragon flew forward and enveloped Xiao Dai in an instant. Xiao Dai's face changed. She did not expect Lin Xian's strength to be so terrifying. She roared and raised her sword to block. The sword dragon collided with the long sword. With a clang, Xiao Dai was sent flying. Half of her body was numb, and she could not exert any strength. She could not even hold the long sword. With a clang, it fell to the ground. How could this be? Xiao Dai was stunned. Did she lose? She was defeated by a single finger. The toad, Yi Wudao, and the others were also surprised. Lin Xian's strength was much stronger than before. The toad jumped out and said coldly, "Little girl, did you see that? This is Lin Wudi's strength. Can the sword god's palace compare? You are the most powerful genius in the sword god's palace. But so what? You can't even block a single finger from Lin Wudi. You want the great dragon sword spirit? Dream on." The others were also discussing. They said, "The sword god's palace is just SOSO. What's so powerful about Jade Pure City? I thought it was terrifying." Yi Wudao also shook his head. "If this is the strength of the sword god's palace, then it is far inferior to the immortal city. Stupid, what do you know? Who told you that I am the most powerful genius in the sword god's palace? I am just a little maid. This time, I came with the Sword Emperor Prince. The Sword Emperor Prince looked down on you, so he only sent me a little maid." Chapter 63-61. You're just a sword attendant. Everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe it. They thought the other party was a top genius. But now, the other party was just a little maid. A sword attendant of the Sword God Palace was so terrifying. What kind of joke was this? Especially the toad. He couldn't accept it. If he was defeated by a top genius, he could accept it. But now, he was defeated by a little maid. He really couldn't stand it. He didn't believe it. Little Butterfly stood up, gritted her teeth, and said, "Lin Xian, I admit that I underestimated you. You're very strong, much stronger than I thought. But I think you rely on the great dragon sword soul. Otherwise, you can't beat me at all. But even if you have the great dragon sword soul, so what? You're no match for the Sword Emperor. This time, I came with the Sword Emperor. I lost, but the Sword Emperor hasn't lost yet. He will kill you in 3 moves. Little Butterfly said the Sword Emperor left and right, saying that the other party was invincible in the world. This made the people of the god realm extremely angry. Then what was the Sword Emperor? Could he be compared with our Lin Gongzi? That's right, Lin Gongzi was invincible and had never been defeated. So what if the Sword Emperor was strong? Let him come. Lin Gongzi will kill him with 1 move. He didn't deserve to be invincible. The Sword Emperor deserved to be invincible. The Sword Emperor was the real invincible swordsman under the god realm. Little Butterfly's words were so sharp that the people of the god realm trembled with anger. They had never seen such an arrogant person. Who was the Sword Emperor? Let him come. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. A little maid, the strongest swordsman under the Sword God realm, the Sword Emperor, interesting. I want to see how strong this peerless swordsman from Jade Pure City is. With that, he waved his hand and opened a passage in the void. He said, Go back and tell your Sword Emperor that I accept his challenge. Humph, it's not a challenge. He's just passing by, and then he'll kill you and take the great dragon sword. Just wait. The Sword Emperor will come soon. At that time, it will be your doomsday. With that, Little Butterfly picked up the Emperor weapon on the ground and disappeared in a flash. Kid, he let her go just like that. Damn it. I want to pull out her tendons and skin her alive. The toad gritted its teeth. Lin Xian said, Don't worry, she'll come again. What I was more curious about was, how did they know? I have the great dragon sword soul. Could it be that someone had already entered Clear Jade City during this period of time? Or did they already know about the great dragon sword? Lin Xian felt that the sword god's palace might have something to do with the great dragon sword. The purpose of his trip was to find the great dragon sword fragment. Therefore, this clue must not be missed. On the other side, the Sword Emperor went to many places. I kept feeling that something was about to happen. It was like the suppression before a great battle. Yi Wudao, Murong Qingcheng, and the others also frowned. Murong Qingcheng said, Brother Xian, be careful. Lin Xian said, I feel a sword Dao competition. A peerless swordsman is coming. It should be the Sword Emperor of the Sword God's palace. This was the aura of the Sword Emperor. He hadn't even arrived yet, but the other party's sword energy could already affect them. What kind of method was this? A peerless enemy. Only then did everyone believe that Xiao Dai wasn't lying. This Sword Emperor was really a peerless swordsman that had never appeared before. Finally, everyone saw a ray of light appear on the distant horizon. It was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it was near the ancient city. In the next moment, the sword light disappeared and turned into two figures. One was a handsome man wearing purple clothes and a jade crown. Beside him was a beautiful woman in purple. This woman was none other than Xiao Dai. At this moment, the other party's face was still a little pale. There was no need to think about it. This man in purple must be the Sword Emperor. When the Sword Emperor saw the city of 10,000 swords, he was also shocked. What a sharp sword energy. I didn't expect that there would be such a place besides my sword god's palace. This should be the power of the great dragon sword spirit. It's really sharp. No wonder it's one of the 5 swords of the world. I must have this good thing. Xiao Dai walked out and said coldly, The Sword Emperor is here. Lin Xian, come out and die. What was he so arrogant for? Toad and the others from the god's realm gritted their teeth. Lin Xian waved his hand and opened the city of 10,000 swords. Let's go and meet him. A group of people rose into the air and flew out of the city. Soon, they arrived outside. The Sword Emperor instantly stared at Lin Xian, because he could feel that there was a super sharp power in Lin Xian's body. The Sword Emperor let out a blood-curdling scream. Everyone was stunned once again. Lin Xian had cut off one of the Sword Emperor's arms with a single strike. Why was this battle record even more terrifying than before? Lin Xian said coldly, underestimating the enemy was a taboo for martial artists. He did not attack again. The Sword Emperor was furious. Are you lecturing me? Although he was furious, he was also extremely shocked. Just now, what was up with this kid's sword? Why didn't he feel much weaker? His opponent's swordsmanship was still as cold as ever. That's not right. There was no longer the power of the dragon sword soul in his body. How could he still use such a cold swordsmanship? The Sword Emperor's arm flew back and merged with his body. He said coldly, "Kid, what's wrong with you?" Lin Xian snorted coldly. "My swordsmanship is called the heaven-defying swordsmanship. This swordsmanship has nothing to do with the dragon sword soul. What the dragon sword soul can provide is invincible power. The true essence of the heaven-defying swordsmanship is an unyielding will. The heavens can't stop me. The earth can't stop me. No one in the world can stop me. This is the heaven-defying swordsmanship." Hearing this, the Sword Emperor's pupils constricted. How arrogant! What had this guy experienced? At this moment, he put away his contempt, because he found that the young man in front of him was really too unusual. He had never seen him like this before. "Next, I will use all my strength to defeat you. Come on." The Sword Emperor shouted angrily and directly used the White Moon Divine Dance. Everyone became nervous again. This was the opponent's peerless magical power. Previously, Lin Xian had the dragon sword soul and could slash it. Now, if the opponent didn't use the power of the dragon sword soul, could he resist it? They didn't know. Lin Xian's expression was incomparably calm. Looking at this peerless magical power, he attacked again, heaven-defying 3 consecutive slashes. Sky slash, sky collapse. Earth slash, earth crack. Lin Xian's sword was extremely fast and terrifying. Between heaven and earth, a huge sword light flashed. Then, the sky broke open, and the earth cracked open. This destructive power directly swallowed the opponent's 13 sword lights. At this time, Lin Xian had already arrived in front of the Sword Emperor. Slash. The third slash. The Sword Emperor didn't have time to defend, and his body was cut in half. Blood stained the sky. The 2 halves of the body fell from the sky. Miserable shrieks rang out like the wails of ghosts and the howls of wolves. Was it thrown away? Murong, Qingcheng, Yi Wudao, and the others were all stunned. What a terrifying swordsmanship. They had never seen the heaven-defying triple slash before. Was this a newly created swordsmanship? In fact, Lin Xian had thought about this swordsmanship for a long time because he was prepared for the worst. He had thought about how he would deal with it if he didn't have the power of the dragon sword one day. Therefore, he prepared this heavenly triple slash. Now that he used it, its power was extremely powerful. The Sword Emperor, Xiao Dai, was scared to tears. The Sword Emperor had lost again. This time, there was no excuse. If it was because of the dragon sword soul before, but this time, why? The Sword Emperor was stronger than the opponent in terms of cultivation. Both of them had divine artifacts. The Sword Emperor had lost. It could only be said that his skill was inferior. You've lost. Do you want to continue? Lin Xian looked forward and said, previously, the 2 of them were just exchanging pointers. If they continued, it might be a life and death battle. The Sword Emperor didn't hear anything because he was really stunned. His confidence was shattered. All along, he had been a sword genius. He was invincible in the Sword God Palace. Even in Jade Pure City, when he fought with the genius powerhouses of other sects, he could easily win. He had never suffered such a setback. As for the outside world, he was even more disdainful. They were just ants. However, the defeat of this battle was really unexpected. He couldn't accept it. Let me ask you, in your universe, how many people are stronger than you? At this moment, the Sword Emperor had a deep suspicion. This universe is too terrifying. Lin Xian said, in the younger generation, no one is my match. Below the land immortal, there aren't many who can compete with me. It's not shameful for you to lose to me. I've tricked more than one land immortal. If you really fight me to the death, I'm afraid you will die miserably." Lin Xian's words stunned the Sword Emperor and Xiao Dai. They believed that the other party was the number one person in the younger generation. However, the other party had fought against a land immortal and even gained the upper hand. How was this possible? A land immortal. That was an existence that stood above everything else. Chapter 63-65. The people in the outside world were really too terrifying. This was what the Sword Emperor and the others thought. They found that they were really frogs in a well. In fact, the Sword Emperor was just scared. He was already very strong. Even in the heavens, the realm of the gods, or the Nirvana realm, he was a super master below the earth immortal level. There were not many people who could suppress him. It was a pity that he challenged Lin Xian as soon as he came up. Lin Xian's strength was super terrifying. After the Sword Emperor was defeated, he was very shocked. The two halves of the Sword Emperor's body slowly healed. He said, "You're very strong. I'm no match for you. There's no need to fight. As for the dragon sword soul, needless to say, I'm not qualified to take it." Behind him, Xiao Dai also walked over and bowed respectfully. "Lin Gongzi, I'm sorry for offending you. Please forgive me." Now, she didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Lin Xian anymore. Lin Xian was surprised. He thought that the Sword Emperor would fight with his life, but he didn't expect that. It seemed that the Sword Emperor was indeed an extraordinary person. He said, "It's okay. In fact, your sword Dao is really strong. We can learn from each other in the future." "Okay, young master, aren't you going to Yuqing City? At that time, you can come to the Sword God's palace as a guest. I'll treat you well." The Sword Emperor was unruly and didn't take anything seriously. However, at this moment, after being defeated by Lin Xian, he somewhat admired Lin Xian. His attitude became a lot more humble. In the distance of the battlefield, there were two figures. These two people were hiding in the void. There were stone-like patterns on their bodies. They were Xian Yin and Xian Ming of the Nirvana realm. Xian Yin looked at this scene and snorted coldly. He lost. This Lin Wudi was really strong. Xian Ming said, "It's okay. We have two plans. If we win, we'll get the dragon sword soul. But he lost. It didn't matter. Anyway, we'll let the god's realm and the Sword God's palace become enemies." It seemed that it was impossible for them to become enemies naturally. "In this case, we'll help him." Xianin sneered. If such a sword expert died outside, the Sword God Palace would probably go crazy. That's right, he had to be prepared. He might have the power of the Sword God. Therefore, we must ensure that nothing goes wrong. Their eyes flickered. They actually wanted to attack the Sword Emperor. As for the Sword Emperor, he didn't know about this. He had made a promise with Lin Xian that they would spar again in the future. Then he left. "Sword Emperor, where are we going?" Xiao Dai asked. The Sword Emperor said, "Let's go back to the Sword God Palace. The world is big, but there is always someone stronger. Only now did I realize that I am not an invincible existence. Cultivate well. Next time, I can't lose to him again." Thinking of this, he increased his speed. The other party's aura was much more terrifying than the Sword Emperor's, causing their scalps to go numb. This was the power of a land immortal. "Who is this senior?" Leaf Dao Denier asked. It was as if they were facing a great enemy. Jian Dao Clone said coldly, "I can sense that the White Moon Divine Sword is here." Had the Sword Emperor been here? That's right. Leaf Dao Denier and the others nodded. "So, it really was you who killed the Sword Emperor." "What? The Sword Emperor was dead." Leaf Dao Denier and the others were stunned. What kind of joke was this? Although Lin Xian defeated the Sword Emperor, he did not kill him. They even appreciated each other. So how could they have died? What a bunch of nonsense. The Crimson Dragon jumped out and said, "Do you think you can distort the truth just because you are an Earth immortal? We were the ones who were magnanimous and let that guy go. In the end, that guy attacked us with his divine sword and even injured our subordinates. We didn't look for trouble with you, but you still dare to slander us. Stupid ant, what kind of tone is that?" The Sword Dao clone was furious and punched out. 10,000 sword fist. It directly charged towards the Crimson Dragon. The Crimson Dragon was shocked. He quickly activated the array. The sword light above the city wall turned into a giant dragon and crazily resisted. This time, even Wan Jianqing trembled. Countless people inside were shocked. Even Lin Xian opened his eyes. He asked, "What's going on?" Beside him, Murong Qingsheng said, "Brother Xian, it seems that a land immortal has arrived." "Land immortal? Let's go take a look." Lin Xian and the others walked out. "What's going on?" Lin Xian asked. Leaf Dao Denier told him what had happened, and Lin Xian's expression changed. The Sword Emperor was dead. He felt that something was wrong. There seemed to be something fishy about this. Senior is from the Sword God Palace. Could it be the Sword God? That's right, it's me. Let me ask you, is the White Moon Divine Sword in this ancient city? Lin Xian waved his hand and directly took the White Moon Divine Sword from afar. He threw it to the Sword Dao clone in front of him. After the Sword Dao clone received it, he coldly shouted, "You are the successor of the great dragon Sword Soul, right? You are so ruthless. It was just a spar. Why did you kill the Sword Emperor? Do you know that the Sword Emperor is my successor? He will be in charge of the Sword God Palace in the future. I didn't kill the Sword Emperor. There must be a misunderstanding. Senior, why don't you investigate clearly first? Is there a misunderstanding? It's very simple. Come back to the Sword God Palace with me. When I investigate clearly, I will let you go." Hearing this, Lin Xian's face darkened. Senior didn't investigate the cause of the Sword Emperor's death, but had designs on me. Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you are a land immortal? The power of time is the strangest. No one can tell. It's better for us to wait in silence. As soon as he finished speaking, the two figures disappeared again. On the other side, Lin Xian had already begun to move. He went to Jade Clear City alone. Apart from this, the others were waiting, entering in batches, because if they went together, they would be too big of a target. Lord Alcohol personally used the devouring vortex to send Lin Xian outside Jade Pure City. Then he said, "Little guy, be careful. Keep this vortex with you. If there's any danger, take it out immediately. I will resist those guys." With that, the vortex quickly shrank to the size of a palm. Lin Xian waved his hand and put it into the sword world. The next moment, he took a deep breath and restrained his aura. He entered Jade Clear City. On the other side, the Sword Dao clone also returned to Jade Clear City. Moreover, he was only slightly faster than Lin Xian. After he returned, he merged with his main body. The sword god's expression was extremely ugly. What a god realm, what a successor of the dragon sword soul. Just you wait. With that, he sent out an order. Go, invite Wood Immortal and Water Immortal. Tell them that I have something important to discuss with them. Also, from now on, keep an eye on the outsiders who come to Jade Clear City. As long as a young peerless swordsman appears, immediately take him down. Yes, the people of the Sword God Palace hurriedly went to make arrangements. However, they were still a step too late because Lin Xian had already entered. After Lin Xian entered, he sighed with emotion. A city is a world. This jade clear city is vast and boundless. Sure enough, it was very similar to Shangqing City. However, Shangqing City was too deserted. Other than the people of the God realm, there was no one else. However, Jade Clear City was different. Lin Xian seemed to see a world where martial arts flourished. He could feel that there was more than one Earth Immortal's aura. Sure enough, it was very similar to Immortal City. Lin Xian could feel that there was a biting cold sword intent in the west of Jade Clear City. That should be the direction of the Sword God Palace. He didn't go to the west, but to the east. This time, he only had one goal in coming to Jade Clear City, to find the fragment of the Great Dragon Sword. Turning the black ring on his finger, Lin Xian set off. He kept walking, because Lord Alcohol had said that this ring was related to the Great Dragon Sword. Once the ring reacted, the fragment of the Great Dragon Sword would be nearby. However, after searching for 5 days, the ring didn't react at all. Lin Xian then went to several other places in Clear Jade City. He also went to the north and south. However, there was no reaction. Instead, he discovered something. The people of the Sword God Palace had begun to investigate the outsiders. They seemed to be searching for something,